Say now you should not buy a house, rent it, and I know this video will get 10 million views.
Yeah.
I could not get myself to buy real estate.
Buying a house तो इस देश का सबसे बड़ा scam.
But that's not correct. No calculator will be able to help you with the emotional aspects of things, but a human being will.
In your opinion, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen people make in their 20s?
Anytime someone tells you, oh, options trading, that's so simple. You just have to spend like 7 minutes doing it. People फालतू में उसको complicated बना देते हैं. अरे नहीं, वो है complicated.
Yeah. What should one's roadmap be for 2025?
आँख बंद करके risk नहीं ले सकते. You have to be a little bit more mindful about where you're investing. So if you're starting to invest in 2025, opt for it. 2025 is where you are supposed to be very careful of not losing money, not taking too much risk. So don't.
How would you advise creators who are just starting out now? And is there anything you would do differently?
Even if I share some industry insights with you in terms of how creators earn, the top 1% creators, they take away, I think, 70 to 80% of the brand income. 99% of them don't make enough to sustain, I would say.
From the outside, it looks like, oh, they are making so much money, 40-50 crores.
40-50 crores, forget that. You can earn 40-50 lakhs.
Yeah.
Is also very difficult today.
Let's talk about women's relationship with money. What are some of the insights that you have seen in your women audience?
Let the guy handle the finances.
Hello and welcome everyone to the India Opportunity Show. I'm your host Shrishti and I'm thrilled to have with me Anushka Rathod today. She's a very well-known FinTech influencer. In fact, she's the first one who started making reels on Instagram about personal finance. And now she has over 1 million followers. She's also recently authored a book about money called The Money Guide. And I personally feel it's one of those books which should be mandated for anyone in their teens and their 20s because it gives you a roadmap for understanding how to manage your personal finance, budgeting, taxation, and so much more. We talk about our experiences of being women in finance and how we've built our own internal compass to be able to navigate this landscape. Hi Anushka, welcome to the India Opportunity Show.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me.
First of all, congratulations on your new book. You've accomplished so much at such a young age. I'm sure your parents and everyone else around you must be super proud.
Thanks a lot for those kind words. And I am equally inspired by you. I think you're one of those, people working in the background, but you've done so much for the FinTech world and so much for women in finance.
Thank you so much. Anushka, I wanted to start by talking about your book, obviously, because everyone has such a different relationship with money, right? For some, it means freedom. For some, it means security, power. But what is your relationship with money? And what was that aha moment in your journey where you realized that this is something that you wanted to go deeper into understanding how money works?
Initially, coming from a business family, we were extremely frugal. I think when I was a kid, my dad would not even let me buy cream biscuits because that's how frugal we were. So I always thought that we did not have a lot of money and we had to be frugal, and the only way to live was, to live extremely, track all your pennies, and you have to save a lot and you have to invest a lot. And there was always this scarcity mindset that what if, we don't have money tomorrow. And I get where my parents also came from because it's a business family. You have income for 2 years and you don't have for 5 years. So you need to allocate money for, uncertainties also. So grew up with that. I think growing up, I would often get tagged also as conjuice, and I am like my father's copy. So he is still a little bit conjuice. I am a little less conjuice, but yeah, that's how we grew up. So till now, I think my relationship with money was always that what if it's not there? I've been extremely scared of not having enough money or, being in financial distress. But I think with time, as you see and, as you speak to more people, as you understand more about money, you realize that you don't have to be that pressured and stressed when it comes to money, and you don't have to be that frugal. There is a balance to be achieved. Otherwise, you won't have fun making that money only. So money is a means to an end and not the end. And a lot of that I came to know when, I saw people who made a lot of money, because ultimately, I also wanted to make a lot of money. I still want to make a lot of money. But when I saw that, they never were behind money. They were always really passionate about their work. They were really, really into the process of the work that they were doing. And that gave them true happiness and, put them in a state of flow.
Yeah.
So my thesis also around life and money changed in a way that find work that you enjoy, find work that does not burn you out, and you're not just doing it for the money. find work that gives you true sense of passion and you're curious about it, and that's where you will come, that's when money will also come to you.
That's so amazing. And there's so many different directions where we can take this conversation. But let's touch upon that aspect that you mentioned, conjuice. I think growing up in India, we all are very used to this mindset of scarcity and insecurity because most families actually operate that way. Not just business families, but overall, लोगों के पास ज़्यादा पैसे थे ही नहीं, right? So a lot of people actually come from that mindset that there is a little insecurity about money. But you have been able to achieve financial freedom at such a young age where you've overcome a lot of the fears that most people are used to. So let's talk about this journey of financial freedom. And you became financially independent at the age of 19, at 22, in your early 20s, right? So let's talk about that aspect because a lot of young people have that aspiration and ambition to want to become financially independent, but they might not know where to start, right? So can you give them a roadmap, so to speak, that how can one think about becoming financially
Right.
independent?
So I've not achieved financial freedom yet, but I have been financially independent. The difference being when you're financially independent, you basically manage your own finances and you are reliant just on yourself. But financial freedom means that you are like sorted for lifetime. That's not happened for me yet. So how do you basically, or how I also plan to achieve that is that, especially when we are young, compounding is in our favor right now. So in order to get the benefit of compounding and actually earn those huge sums in terms of capital returns on your money that you're investing, you need to have that initial investment to be larger. So how do you work on that corpus? It's by increasing your skill. Now, there's no rocket science here. There is literally nothing in finances, as complicated. It's actually very simple that you need to have more money. You need to invest as much as you can, as early as you can, and you need to stay put at it, for a very long period of time for it to make you money. So the only way to actually become financially free is to focus on your work, get those large sums of money for yourself, invest it, save and invest as much as you can, and then you will achieve financial freedom. Now, there are other ways people have achieved financial freedom by taking risk. Now, you can take risk with your career, your work that you're doing, and that will give you exponential returns. I would still say for younger people that is more favorable. But the other way, which I think is becoming more common now, is to take more risk with your capital. The money that you're investing, take more risk there. Try to earn, say, 50%, 100% year on year returns, 2x, 3x, 5x in trading, or you hear stories of other people investing in crypto and you go do after, you go behind them and do it, or you invest in IPOs and tumhara paisa double ho jata hai. So all of that is actually not sustainable. It takes up a lot of your time, which is not even compounding. So it's not that if you research 10 IPOs and you spend time there, it's not that you can maximum invest how much. So it's not even that you can keep investing your money there. It's not that knowledge is also helping you make more money, and it's not that it is consistent. Abhi IPO markets अच्छे चल रहे हैं, tomorrow not. So at
and there are
best,
also outlier examples, right? People take the outlier exponential returns examples as something that this is very easily achievable. Okay.
So risking your capital is not something that you should do at least in your early. I don't think you should ever do it, but you especially should not do it when early in your career. You should bet on yourself, take risk in your career, and actually get those exponential earnings from your skill or starting a business, because now is the time when you can do that. And anytime someone tells you, oh, options trading, that's so simple. You just have to spend like 7 minutes doing it. This is actually an ad of someone who got booked by SEBI recently.
I know you.
Yeah. Oh, people फालतू में उसको complicated बना देते हैं. अरे नहीं, वो है complicated. उसमें actually पैसा नहीं बनता. अगर इतना simple होता पैसा बनाना.
93% of the traders actually lose money.
You have to stick to the basics. In the finance world, it's all about probabilities. You need to have a higher probability of not losing your capital and higher probability of visibility that, oh, I will get 12% return if I invest in this asset class over the next 10-15 years. The probability of that is extremely high. It's upward of 90-95%. Okay, then I can do this. But you should not chase 1000% return for a probability of say 5 or 10%. That's just stupidity. So go for investment options where you are taking calculated risk, meaning if I'm investing in the equities and I'm taking good mutual funds and my time horizon is 10-15 years, the probability of me losing money is extremely low, and the probability of me making average market returns of 12-14% is extremely high. So that's how how I will go about with my money. And on the other hand, I will, spend my time enjoying life and also working more on earning a salary or, whatever I want to do, making multiple streams of income.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I think there's a report that came out recently that 60% of urban Indians are actually not able to meet their financial goals because of unexpected expenses that they incur, right? And we were talking about how often we order from quick
Yeah.
commerce and some of our spending habits also. Like, so a lot of young people actually don't realize how often they are spending, on what all they are spending. And what I found really amazing in your book, because I have to say that it is one of the most visually appealing finance books that I've ever come across. You've made it so beautiful in terms of just being able to understand some of these very easy concepts, but we make it very complicated in our heads. But tell us about, how to understand how to manage your expenses better, how to think about budgeting. Because a lot people think that this is very boring, but I personally feel that this is the most important thing to spend time on in your 20s to avoid the mistakes that happen later on.
देखो मैंने तो हार मान ली है मतलब these people have gotten they've gotten very smart with their ads, with their targeting,
Yeah.
with like the stories that they make around their products. तो मैंने तो हार मान ली है. I think I'm going to spend money, but how I go about it is instead of me mindlessly spending, I first set a budget for myself. So, okay, whatever I'm earning in a month, 5%, 7%, I want to spend on things that I like.
Yeah.
And that could be like jewelry for myself. Recently, I've been a lot into jewelry. I also got my ears pierced for that.
Looks amazing.
Thank you. But it could be shoes, it could be whatever you want. It could be gadgets, but whatever it is, you need to pre-allocate your budget for it. Keep only that much in your UPI account or wherever you are spending your money from. And whenever you're mindlessly spending on these quick commerce apps, on these Instagram ads, or even like when you go to your malls to shop, only use that particular account. And your check will not be that, should I buy this or should I not buy it? It'll be, oh, in my account I only have 2,000 rupees, this costs 4,000 rupees, I can't buy it. Unfortunately, I have to wait for the next month to get more money to be able to buy it. So that your willpower should not be that, oh, should I buy this, should I not buy this? And it should not be like, very instant in the moment decision. Keep like a check on keep a check through your bank accounts that have a UPI account where you're only keeping very little money. It could be 3,000, 4,000, 10,000, 20,000, how much ever your salary and discretionary spends allow you to, and stick to that. Because you can't see as many ads and not get tempted. You can't see all these quick commerce apps where you'll get things in under 10 minutes and not order. The only check you can do is not having money. If you don't give them money, they won't send you the goods. So have that UPI account or whatever that one account is where you use for discretionary spends, and that is linked to everywhere. All your other money should not be touched. Make a separate account. Don't even have a mobile app for that. Keep all that money there. Your SIP should go through from that account, but from your main account where you are actually using for discretionary spends, you keep a very small amount or whatever your percentage you are comfortable spending.
So that's roughly 5 to 7%, you said, of your personal spend?
No, for me, I have kept a tangible number of 6,000 rupees. 6,000 rupees a month I spend on myself, whatever, wherever I want to spend. And that will be on myself, my friends, whatever, like if I want to go out to eat. I stay in Surat, so 6,000 is a lot still. But yeah.
No, that's amazing. And, let's make it a little more tactical than that, right? Like if you think about someone who's earning, say, 40, 50,000 rupees a month, how should they be thinking about, planning their expenses and budgeting? And also, how much should they be investing? Like, सब लोग बोलते कि 1,000, 2,000 में भी SIP start हो सकती है. But does the youth really have that much money to start investing?
Exactly, like 40, 50,000 in metro cities is nothing.
Yeah.
You can't really save from that. But again, how much you should save? As much as possible. Realistically, whatever is possible for you. So if it's 1,000 rupees, if it's 500 rupees, do that. And also a lot of people, even young people, have responsibilities. For Gen Z को तो फालतू में बदनाम करके रखा है. But I know so many people who are taking care of their parents, who are actually very responsible. And late 20s, you have your partners. So that responsibility also increases. But having said everything, I still think there is more spending on discretionary spends, on your lifestyle spends, on your recreational spends, on travel, and all those are not wrong. But you need to prioritize your saving and investment before. So it's a very simple thing. We know that 50, 30-20 rule. Now that's like a number that won't work for everyone, but you make that number for yourself. So what amount do you need for your needs? Now your rent, your electricity, your Wi-Fi bills, your groceries, all of that you keep in your needs. So basically your first bucket is where you're putting your money for whatever you need to do to survive. Your second bucket is things that you probably don't need as much to survive, but you need to enjoy your life. So that could be, say, going out with your friends or shopping or watching a movie. So your second bucket is that. Now that you need to be a little frugal there and see, okay, I won't spend all the money I have after my needs towards this. I want to keep it at, say, 20% or 10% or 30%, whatever your finances allow you. And then whatever is remaining, you invest that money. So actually I said it the opposite way. First your needs, whatever you need for your survival, you allocate money towards that. Then you fix an amount that, okay, this is how much I want to save for myself and invest. You allocate money towards that, and then from whatever is left, you use it for your discretionary expenses. Now, fortunately, for a lot of people, that might not be a large amount that they can afford a lot of things, but with time, if you are frugal in your early 20s and 30s, you will be more thankful in your 40s and 50s because you had that discipline, because you were more mindful of your expenses and you've saved money for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think क्योंकि ज़्यादातर लोग अपने financial mistakes, actually the biggest financial mistakes जो लोग करते हैं वो actually अपने 20s में करते हैं, because they don't realize some of these money principles, and then by the time, if you're spending obscenely in your 20s and 30s, then by the time you're in your 40s you don't have that much money to show for it, right? So in your opinion, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen people make in their 20s?
I think one is, of course, just not being aware and not like starting it. I know a lot of people like, हाँ करना है, but they're not taking the first step. And also because it can be a little intimidating कि हम कैसे करें first step, like how do we even start, where do we even start from?
Yeah.
But and that's like primarily the reason I also wrote the book, because I'm not plugging it here for the sake of it, but the reason people get intimidated because finance as a world, they've made things so complicated, and the stories they make on it is very simple. So there's like a complicated ULIP product, but the story on top of it is you are saving for your child's education, you're saving for your girl child's marriage. So prima facing it seems easy. The moment you go one layer deep, things get very difficult to understand, and that's why people somewhere are a little cautious or little wary of where to invest, how to invest, and then often listen to people selling to them, which might not be in their best interest. But the first thing that you need to do is understand that as boring as simple your investment planning is, the better. You don't need a lot of like rocket science stories to believe in, or you don't need
You don't need a lot of startup and crypto allocation in your portfolio.
Yeah, you don't need that 50, 60, 100%, 10x returns. You just need a simple 12 to 14% return, which is realistic in the Indian markets in the longer term because of our growth prospects that we have. So that is something how you should plan your finances. Simple, something that is automated and stress-free. Second mistake, I think what people make is, of course, lifestyle inflation. Now, because, like we just discussed, there's so much temptation around that it's humanly impossible at a lot of cases to have that willpower to not spend. And especially when you're constantly seeing others on social media, when you're seeing others around you also spend that kind of money or spend on that kind of lifestyle expenses or experiences, you also want to be a part of that. Like why won't you want to enjoy your life? However, a balance is required. Predetermine what amount you want to spend on it and only spend that much. Remember, everyone is behind your money, but you need to safeguard it before people take it. And I think the third mistake that people usually make is, we touched upon that before also, chasing returns. So don't chase returns, chase your initial capital. Invest as much, just earn as much as possible in your early 20s or actually throughout your life, and put it in like an automated system where you're getting predictable returns. I recently interviewed someone that's like a 23, 24-year-old person. In his resume, he had derivatives traders. I was intrigued, like, 23, 24 derivatives traders, big term. And then I talked about it. This guy, like the wall behind him was chipped, and not to judge, but didn't seem to come from a very good financial background. And I asked him, what did you do as a derivatives trader? Why did you stop? And he said that, I would just watch YouTube videos and I would watch read these blogs online, and that's how I started. And I lost 2.5 lakh rupees, and now I'm in need of job because I owe money to people to repay that.
Yeah.
And this guy is 24.
Yeah. I've heard so many of these stories, right? Like people, even from lending apps, people taking loans, and consumer loans are at an
Yeah.
all-time high because of that, because people want to sustain their lifestyle expenses using debt, which is not something people should be doing. But there's just no awareness around it, and there's no understanding also. You don't know what you're signing up for. I think let's also talk about credit cards and the financial debt that people get themselves into, because 20s are also जब आप सबसे अपने बड़े life decisions ले रहे हो, sometimes you want to make some big purchases, and sometimes you have family responsibilities, so you start putting money towards that. So how does one think about credit cards and personal traps that they might get themselves into?
So again, here I'll tell you the example of someone, my vegetable vendor. He bought a four-wheeler, and I don't think he's earning more than 40,000-50,000 rupees a month, and he has a family. I asked him कि कहाँ से लिया, loan वोन कहाँ से मिला. He took a loan at an extremely high interest rate, but he said मेरे को तो बस हफ्ते का 2,200 रुपए भरना है और गाड़ी मेरी. 2,200 रुपए ऐसे सुनते हैं तो does not seem, उनको implicit interest rate पता नहीं कितना होता है. And that's the same thing with credit cards, that you buy it, सिर्फ minimum due 300 रुपए भरना है, and then, I can keep paying it off till later. But you don't understand that you're getting charged on these other NBFCs and other lending app, you're being charged 20-30% interest, and on these credit cards you're being charged as high as 40-45% interest rates. So you are paying a lot in hidden fees and these interests, which you don't come to know because you just see, oh, मेरे को तो बस हफ्ते का 2,000 रुपए भरना है. But when you see the bigger picture, for a item which costs 10,000 rupees, you ultimately might end up paying 2x that amount. So you need to be aware that you don't have to make other people money. You need to be aware that XYZ amount I have for myself, and this is how much I can spend. And even though someone else is willing to give me money, वो लोग charity थोड़ी ना कर रहे हैं. They are earning off you. That's why they're giving you those loans. And because of, the liquidity that was there, I would say 2 years back, a lot of people also got loans very easily, and credit cards were also being marketed a lot. And that's why people took these finances to, spend on their lifestyle and discretionary expenses. But how do you not fall into that again? Like, it's, the basic thing here, that you need to be mindful of what your circumstances are and how much you can spend. You can't get tempted from, things outside. So again, very simple, keep a budget for yourself and enjoy in that. And rest, you have to be responsible for your own finances, because कल को अगर तुम्हारे पास पैसे नहीं है, these people are going to put people behind you to recover that money. So you have to be mindful from day one and not get lured into making these decisions.
And I think social media has only made it worse, right? Like Instagram पे हम लोग देखते हैं कि सब लोग कितने holidays पे जा रहे हैं, क्या-क्या चीज़ों पे spend कर रहे हैं, and सबकी कितनी अच्छी lifestyle है. But we often just forget that that's one part of their day, and it's not their entire life. It's a highlight clip from their life, and somehow we are taking it on face value that this is how that person lives for every day, which is not true at all. And we just get deeper and deeper into, financial stress around it, because it'll feed off your insecurity about money at the end of the day. And I think that's what you were talking to.
And also I would like to mention, like, even, influencers and creators like us, like a lot of times, finance influencers not so much, but a lot of times I know these other creators, they're getting paid to take 5-6 holidays in a year. It's not normal. They are getting paid to, promote things to you, and they are actually making money off those trips. So when they are telling you go to this place and do these things, of course we all want to experience that, and we should experience that. But we also need to understand and get a reality check as to what's normal. People are going to not take away the good values that they should. And I think clothes is something that's become such a major expense for a lot of people, which is not good for the environment, for the society, and for your bank balance. So why do you want to, and it's something which is so trivial also. You can easily get away with making a capsule wardrobe. And another thing which I think has become like a havoc for Indian society is iPhones. Everyone wants an iPhone. I know one of my house help who barely earns anything and took an EMI to buy an iPhone. Like, that was his dream in his life. And it's okay, everyone aspires to have like a good phone, and that's become a status symbol. But at the end of the day, I think today the coolest thing is to be uncool. If you are wearing something which is very basic, if you are not into brands, and I'm not saying that, for someone like a Coach might be an aspirational brand, but for others, a Coach might be a normal spend.
Yeah.
So, depending on your income level, if you are making smart choices and being uncool in that income bracket,
Yeah.
then you are the coolest person and you're the smartest person and you're the person who's going to be very happy in your life.
Yeah, I think the richest people in the world actually don't care about what they wear. Like, I worked at Meta and I would see Mark Zuckerberg come in the same t-shirt every single day.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's surely he's spending on his t-shirts, but still, it's the same t-shirt every day to reduce his decision making. And if you look at some of the other most successful people, they actually dress very basic. They'll be wearing t-shirts and shorts, whereas like people who actually don't have that much money are trying to make their clothes and how they look as a status symbol for themselves. I think that's where the divide comes also, right? Wealthy versus having status. What do you think of that? What's your opinion on like, looking rich versus actually being wealthy?
I always believe in being presentable, and to be presentable, you don't need to have the best of brands. It's about how you carry yourself, it's about investing in good quality clothes that you can wear over and over again. So, you need to know how to be smart about it, like make a smart capsule wardrobe for yourself, be presentable, but don't chase status just of, oh, he has such a fancy car, oh, he has that. Get like a decent car which your income allows, but beyond that, know that, okay, this is my limit, this is what my reality is, and if people are going to judge me for it and not be friends with me or not be in my circle, then I'm not at the right place.
And then coming back to, some of the biggest expenses in your life in your 20s and 30s, buying a home is also one of the biggest expenses that people usually incur at this age. But this whole debate about buying versus renting, everyone thinks that, buying is a very emotional decision versus renting, which is a more financial and rational decision. What's your take on this hot debate?
Again, it depends on where you stay. Now, coming from Surat, probably for me, buying might make more sense than someone who is, say, in a metro city. So, depending on where you are, what your finances are, again, buying versus renting is emotional, but is as financial decision as it's a financial decision that's going to impact your finances for the rest of your life. Recently, I saw like a Reddit post on someone saying that their EMI tenure had increased to 33 years because of the interest rate hike, and they could not increase their EMI. And I know people who, who have 50,000 rupees salary or 75,000 rupees salary, and out of that 50%, like as maximum as you can get from a bank, goes towards their EMI. And they feel so suffocated because they can't enjoy their money and they have to work because they have those EMIs. So you're buying your home or having a home also comes with its financial implications, which are massive. And a lot of times these pressures are also there because of your family. So we can't necessarily say that buying is best for everyone or renting is best for everyone. It depends on their personal situations. But having said that, if you had the option to buy or rent, you have to do what your area where you are staying is, what are the rentals there and what are the EMIs there. According to your finances, how much down payment can you put down and at what interest rate are you getting a home loan? Do you have that liquidity to put a significant amount towards your down payment, and then the rest of the money you're taking it because you would rather invest that liquidity in the stock market? Are your financial conditions in your family that stable that you can take that bet to take a 20-year home loan and at the same time invest also? So a lot of ifs and buts, and again I'm plugging my book here, but I have discussed all of this, that what all decisions you need to actually think about. And I'll tell you this also, that a lot of people who advocate buying homes or renting homes on social media, at the end of the day, they have enough money to not worry about it, or they have a family home somewhere where their parents are staying, and tomorrow if there's a loss of job, or tomorrow if something happens, they have some place to go to. They don't have to deal with shifting their families from one home to another because they're on a rental, because they live in rental homes. They don't have to face the implications of shifting their children's school because of the rental situation. situation. So renting also comes with a lot of its problems, and you are paying so much money to live in a house which is not yours also for such a long period of time. That's not something which is emotionally very satisfying and settling for a lot of people. So it's a mix of an emotional and financial decisions, and there are a lot of things that you need to take into account. Probably this is a decision where you should go to a financial advisor, sit down with them, map it out, because it's a big decision and there is no clear answer, and no calculator will be able to help you with the emotional aspects of things, but a human being will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were so right about these things because it's so unique to each individual. Whereas, Nikhil Kamath kept talking about renting the place and then he eventually bought it. So, people's circumstances and life situations can be so different. Whereas, things change every year. You might think about life differently.
Like, I can say now, you should not buy a house, rent it, and I know this video will get 10 million views.
Yeah.
But that's not correct.
Yeah, that's not good financial advice because finance is also something very unique and specific to each individual, which everyone should appreciate. So I really like the breakup and the templates that you've given in your book for people to be able to understand what their own metrics should be. And, stop comparing yourself to others. I think that's where most of the world's problems start, honestly. But if you come back to this point about, optimizing your finances, I think a big aspect of that is also taxation, right? And people don't understand how taxation works. A lot of them will, this whole debate about up to 12 lakhs, no taxes to be paid. How do you think about it? First we can talk about the tax optimization bit, which everyone in their 20s and 30s can do. And second aspect I wanted to cover is what changes between the new regime and the old regime if, 12 lakhs at zero taxes.
Right. So I think, first thing that's very clear is that the government is favoring the new tax regime more. And eventually we might see that, a lot of the benefits that you're getting in the old tax regime, they will remain. But even now, the newer tax regime has gotten more lucrative, and it looks more incentivizing to a lot of people. And the government wants to push that. So if you're someone who's just starting, don't make investments or don't plan your tax savings according to your old tax regime, because the government wants to shift to the new tax regime. So in future, we don't know what will happen. We don't want to be in a situation which is disadvantageous to us. So be wary of that. Now, but if you are someone who, you've already taken a home loan or your ATC reductions are planned and you're getting a lot of salary reduction, salary benefits from your employer, a lot of allowances that give you tax benefits, then for you, you will have to see that if your salary is something that has a lot of allowances, gives you a lot of tax benefits, and you also have a lot of your home loans, your insurance policies, or your ATC reductions, or your health insurance premiums, if you have all those already planned and you're saving more in the old tax regime, then you don't have an option but to continue with that.
Yeah.
So if you're starting, definitely go with the new tax regime, because that's what the government is favoring and you don't know what's going to happen. As of now, even if you are in the old tax regime, don't make investment decisions basis their tax benefits. Don't buy a home just because it's, giving you tax benefit, because we don't know what will happen tomorrow, how the government will change it. Now, very big decisions or crucial things like home loans, I don't think the government will change things drastically there.
Yeah.
But other investment options might not be as, lucrative taxation wise. Compared to the new tax regime, and we have seen that the government has changed its stances on a lot of investments or a lot of tax saving aspects in the past, and given their preference for the new tax regime, that can also happen in the future. So as of now, it's not the wisest decision if you are making a newer decision basis tax planning or for tax saving purposes.
Right.
Having said that, if you are someone in the old tax regime, you've already made all those decisions, then you don't have an option but to continue with that. The whole 12 lakh thing is that, so I think, I don't remember the exact number, but majority of the taxpayers in India, I think somewhere around 90% of them, the tax income that they were in was below 12 lakhs.
Yeah.
So the government has made the new tax slabs in such a manner that if your income is up to 12 lakhs, with the rebates that you're getting, you will have to pay zero tax. Now, along with that, they salaried employees also get a 75,000 standard deduction, so that gets to 12.75 lakhs.
Yeah.
And along with that, you still have these two options, which is NPS and Voluntary Provident Fund, which is an extension of EPF. These two you can still do in the new tax regime, and I think don't remember the exact numbers, but I think yours, if you only have salary income till 14.5 lakhs and you utilize both of these investments to their fullest, what is allowed, you can get your tax liability to zero. Again, but having said that, both VPF and NPS, they are very long-term instruments. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow from a tax saving purposes. But these are products which we don't think the government will do a lot with, because they are for retirement at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But they do come with very long lock-ins also. NPS more than VPF. So consider whatever your current financial goals are, invest according to that. And if tax savings comes with it, then go for it. Otherwise, don't. So that's how the 12 lakh new tax regime slabs work. But in this, your capital income, capital gains is not considered. So if you're earning income from the stock market, then that's above and beyond that. So that is
Right.
something that you will get taxed on.
Got it. Very interesting. I think, now that we've covered so many different aspects of the personal finance, we've covered and spoken about, I think, taxation, budgeting, managing your expenses in a big way. I also want to dig a little deeper into your journey as a content creator. A lot of people in their 20s think that they want to be content creators and don't really realize that there is a shelf life, right? Like, you call yourself senior citizen for a reason, because most creators struggle to go beyond 3 years, 3 to 5 years, as they say, and then they eventually have to diversify their income stream. So how would you advise creators who are just starting out now, and is there anything you would do differently?
I think creators who are starting out right now should know that the space was already crowded, but has become even more crowded.
Yeah.
So for me to get a viral video in just 15 days of making content was easy, because I was the first infotainment creator. Reels was new, so
Yeah.
a lot of things went correctly for me. Today, if you want to stand out and get a viral video as a creator, you need to put in 2 to 3 months. Today, if you want to, everyone's making very high production content. So if you are just starting with your phone, you need to be like really, really either entertaining or come up with like really good insights that people actually listen to you without that production value.
Yeah.
So today, if you want to be a content creator, I would not say that just close your eyes and jump all in, because it's become extremely competitive. And even if I share some industry insights with you in terms of how creators earn, the top 1% creators, they take away, I think, 70 to 80% of the brand income. The rest, 99, I'm not even saying 10 and 90, 10% and 90%. I'm saying top 1% and rest 99%. 99% of them don't make enough to sustain. I would say still the top 10%, they still make some money here and there,
Yeah.
but the rest, the tail end of it, they absolutely don't make any money.
Yeah.
The brands have gone down a lot, especially in the finance space, because the markets have not been that liquid, and
Yeah.
Things have been here and there. Startups have stopped spending in the fintech space because of all the regulations and
Yeah.
liquidity crunches. However, traditional banks and traditional products have started coming in. So that balance for the top 1% creators, we've not lost out on like a lot of our earnings here and there. But for the newer creators, it's difficult, because working with these bigger brands
Yeah.
require you to have bigger teams, proper operations, because there's a lot of back and forth that happens, a lot of regulatory compliances that they have to do, which you need to comply. So every video is like minimum 15 to 20 times back and forth between you and the team on the
Yeah.
script level, on the editing level. So if you as an individual are doing it, it's extremely exhausting in the finance space. But in the other lifestyle space, when we talk about fashion, makeup, these spaces are still growing, still booming. D2C is still spending a lot. If
You don't think they are also very crowded?
they are very crowded,
Yeah.
but there the brands are also there, and there if you're a smaller creator, you will still have that audience that people will listen to you and buy things. So there, the spending is not just on the top 1% or top 5% creators.
Yeah.
It's across the spectrum, because brands are also spending across the spectrum. So you can get, you can get barter collabs also if you are as low as 10,000, 20,000 followers, which is not the case in finance, because who will
Yeah.
you do barter with? Infotainment, is the right word to use there. So but if you're in the lifestyle and fashion space, it's even more difficult to grow, because the creators in that space, I would say, are 10x the creators in infotainment space.
Yeah.
So competition is intense, but if you are to start today, and if you have a strong story, if you have something very unique in what you're doing, and the audience finds something fresh and new, this is for sure that the algorithm supports newer talent, newer faces, smaller accounts, if you have something credible, because they also want fresh faces, because audience also gets tired listening to the same people again and again.
Yeah.
So the opportunity will always be there, but it's just becoming more and more difficult to get discovered there. And having and you mentioned that there's a shelf life. Yes, there's a shelf life, but even with that shelf life, the opportunities you get with content creation, if you're able to build a brand name for yourself, they're unparalleled. They're very difficult to get it without the distribution or without that online presence.
Yeah.
So if you're able to do that with your job currently, this is a great way to actually build a presence, and you might not be able to earn brand income, but you might be able to build, say, consulting. You might be able to get consulting opportunities. You might be able to provide services to others, and this could be a way for you to market it to others and reach out to other people, where you're not doing one-to-one, which happens via email or LinkedIn DMs. You're doing one-to-many. You're putting the video out there, and it'll reach to a lot of people, and you don't know who it'll reach to. Like, we were also talking that how you discovered my page and I discovered your page, and we had no idea about it till one day I randomly messaged you. So you don't know who your content is reaching out to and when that clicks for you later in life. So again, this is not very easy to do it, content creation, because the production levels have gotten so high and it is time consuming. But if you can, it's a great way to build a secondary income.
Yeah, and because I think people really underestimate how much you end up spending on production, post-production, and the back and forth that you have to do when it comes to brand collaborations. Talk to us about some of the challenges in this space, right? Because from the outside, it looks like, oh, they are making so much money, 40, 50 crores, some creators are earning, and those are the numbers out there, right? And people think that, oh, if I start and if I give it 2 years of my life dedicated, I'm also going to earn like crores of rupees, which is not always true. I've seen so many creators who've been at it for years and haven't had those breakthroughs, right? So it's very, very unique. Again, the power law exists. I think, I keep talking about it in the venture world, but I think there's a bigger power law that exists here.
Extremely.
Yeah.
So it's not that you give 2 years to content creation and you will make money. That does not happen anymore. It did happen before when there was not as much competition. Right now, it's all about how good of a storyteller, a creator you are. Like, what's that unique USP in your content that people like watching? And unfortunately, there's no formula to it. You might be able to, you might be able to create certain kind of videos and get attention in the short term. But to build brands where you can earn 40, 50 crores, forget that, you can earn 40, 50 lakhs is also very difficult today. So to get to that level, the only thing you need to work on is mastering your craft, mastering your storytelling. Like, the entire content game is very big on storytelling today. Now, coming to challenges that you asked about, challenges is being relevant. The audience gets bored of what you're doing every 2 months. Every 2 months, what was working before does not work any longer. But being in content for the past 4 years now, I am not as worried about, keeping up the constant views, keeping up the attention, keeping up, with the same number of consistency in terms of putting output out there in terms of videos. Now, what I have gone to more is setting up processes and systems for myself, so that the content that goes out there is nice, it's unique, but I'm not worried as much about the views, because it's impossible to generate high, high quantum of views over a longer period of time, because the algorithm works against that. Now, what's also happening on Reels is that when I started creating content, the number of people who were creating Reels, say, were 10. By 2022, they became 100. By 2025, they're now 1,000. Everyone is creating Reels. So for my piece of content, which I would post before and what I'm posting today, the competitors for that particular reel or video to show up on someone's feed has just increased multifoldly exponentially.
Yeah.
So even if your content is, equally good as what it was 4 years back, or how the content was 4 years or 5 years back, it still won't get the same number of views because of the quantum of people who are creating
Yeah.
content, the quantum of content that is going out there. So that again, and this was supposed to happen. This happened with YouTube also, and this has happened with Reels also.
And there's also so much to say about these platforms, right? Because when I was at Meta in 2018-19, Reels was the entire focus of the entire company. So it's not that, it was just Reels. Reels were meant to explode. And that is why, anyone who started making content on Reels was exploding, and then they would be suddenly everywhere, which is, I think you caught the tailwind of it and you benefited from that. But like people also have to understand that platforms actually work very differently. That what was popular back then is not going to be okay now. So for example, there are other mediums which are coming up now. I think podcasting is taken off. There are shorts that are working, but like, so much has changed in the content creation space, and you just need to be tuned into the pulse of it. How have you adapted and kept yourself relevant over a period of time?
I think from day one, for me, I did dabble into YouTube and long form content, but I was not able to do it because of certain reasons. So I always thought that what I want to, what like I had two options: either to diversify into or across content platforms, or diversify with my Instagram, but outside of the content world. So I chose outside of the content world primarily because I could not do YouTube because I had certain throat issues. So I could not speak for that long back then. But right now, if right now I'm again in 2025 planning to relaunch my YouTube. And
Absolutely, you should.
Yeah, I get there. And also, I think for the longest time I thought, okay, I will create YouTube videos, but what's the USP? What's the new thing that I'm doing? I don't want to start something just for the sake of it. I don't want to start a podcast, just for the sake of it. Like, I should have something in terms of, oh, I have a great idea, or I have great guests which who people want to listen to. I don't want to start something just for the sake of it. But right now, I think I have a great idea. Also, where I want to go, towards, also where I want my brand to go towards, for Instagram as well as YouTube. And again, right now, I think because I am a senior citizen in this field, so I know systems and processes better, and I'm not like as tensed, as nervous as, oh, ये इतने views नहीं आए, या ये ऐसे काम नहीं किया. And I'm a little bit more methodological or like a little bit more systematical about the entire process and how to approach it. So again, treating content creation as a business and not treating content creation as an extension of yourself is how you survive and sustain in this industry.
I realize that people who just want to be creators just to get quick fame, their lives are so short-lived in the sense of, they'll have that taste of fame, maybe on one video, maybe on two videos, but it's not a very repeatable process in that sense.
Agreed. And also it gives you that dopamine, like you get one viral video and you're hooked. You want more viral videos, and you don't realize when you're sucked into that whole game of, chasing that dopamine, chasing that validation, chasing that fame. You really need to, like, step back and see why you're doing what you're doing. If you're doing it for fame and money, you are not going to survive very long, and you will burn out eventually. But if you're doing it for the art, if you're doing it because you genuinely love the process of creating videos, then you'll survive, and there's a chance that you will make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And, coming back to, I think, this is such an empowering episode even for me, just to have a woman in finance at 27 who's already cracked the code to financial independence in a big way. I think so much has to be said about, self-learning about these things, because no one taught me these things which I've mastered, and I think your journey was very similar also. So let's talk about women's relationship with money, because in our families in Indian households, how we grow up is sometimes, usually the sons will be taking charge of the business in our cases, which is what we discussed. But like then there are also aspects like, women don't handle the finances, or women aren't supposed to work. And then we spoke about marriage and motherhood being the biggest drop-off points for women in career. So let's talk about women's relationship with money. What are some of the insights that you have seen in your women audience, and how can we make women's relationship with money better?
So the biggest insight that I have here is, or I observed, is that if there's a man or there's a man and a woman, and they both don't know anything about finance, the man will be comfortable asking questions. They will be comfortable asking or reaching out to people, but the woman somewhere will feel very insecure and intimidated about the whole process, because the finance world is in such a way that it's catered or targeted at men. And growing up also, men have always been made comfortable talking about money, and they've been spoken to about money and investments. They somewhere feel at home and at ease when they're talking about money, whereas at the other end, for women, we don't grow up listening, or people talking to us about investments or what businesses to do or how to manage your money. So that way, that intimidated they become, or they are more intimidated there. Even if you see this one thing, that I recently purchased a car. I was purchasing the car for myself. I was paying it. I would take the loan. It would be insurance on my name. Yet the salesperson was only talking to my father.
Yeah.
And I told him not once but twice, मैं खरीद रही हूँ. मेरे account से पैसे जाएंगे.
Yeah.
But he would still not cater to me, or he would not still talk to me. So that's the same thing what happens. Even my insurance agent, and I'm like, I am buying an insurance product for myself. My dad is not. But when he came home to explain that insurance product to us, he would not talk to me.
Yeah.
And that happens across
It's happened
domains.
to me, like I run my family office, and people think that my father is going to be the ultimate decision maker. And I'm like, and my father happily just sends all the people to me. He's like, she's the one making decisions, but people can't absorb that. I think women taking charge of their finances or decision making is such a new concept to the rest of the world, whereas women have been managing home and finances for their entire lifetimes in decades.
When you don't get that, you don't get that, that thing is not reciprocated from others when you're talking to them or asking questions, you get more intimidated. You then become insecure, and you are not as confident to ask those questions and make those decisions, because you're not getting the right answers or the required information to make those decisions. So I think a couple of things of not being while growing up, not being a part of those money conversations, get you a little intimidated. Then again, the environment is such that you are not well received or given as much importance and attention when it comes to making the bigger financial decisions. Day-to-day budget nahi, but like say buying an insurance policy or investing, you are not, your enthusiasm is not reciprocated by the salespeople or whoever is at the other end of the table. And all of that factors actually end up making women not as confident, not as involved. They're like, there are 100 battles we have to fight already. If this is a battle that's already lost, let the guy handle the finances. I don't want to handle this. This is not a battle I want to fight. So coming from there, I understand why, some women, even after earning their own money, they don't want to be a part of this, or they don't want to manage their own finances, and they give that responsibility to whoever the men in their family are. But again, this is something where you are also somewhere little bit giving away your power. Now, if they're your trusted allies, and they are in most cases, your fathers, your husbands, your brothers are your trusted allies, but you should be involved in that decision. You should be, the one who is telling them that this is what my financial goals are, this is where I want my money to be, this is what my long-term objectives are. Okay, if you are, you are more aware of these instruments, or you're more aware about what's happening in the finance world, you give me options, talk to me about it, explain everything to me, and I will make the decision with you. So that should happen more. And also, I feel somewhere men also dismiss women. Now, in a lot of cases, men are supportive of women also earning and managing their money. But in a lot of cases, I have seen, and this is like people my age also, of my friends dismissing their wives when they make a statement, on certain investments or on money. So that ego, or somewhere that superiority complex, is also there in men. But I think as women, we are used to
dealing with that because we've dealt with it all our lives.
So it's just a thing we have to keep in check and learn to do it ourselves.
Yeah, and also, I think you wanted to talk about the family pressure that starts when you're nearing your end of 20s, right? I think it's a very real thing and not spoken about, because I also have realized, as someone who hires women and who has women in her team, that motherhood and marriage are the two big M's where the drop-offs happen for women in their careers. So you can you talk about that? How are you thinking about some of these milestones? I know it's in the future, you can't plan or predict
No,
them,
it's actually
but
not like way
what's
into
the
the
way to think
future.
about it?
I think as someone who is probably like just in the late 20s and entering this whole, I think the next 5-7 years is when things might happen for me also in both motherhood and marriage. My marriage sooner than motherhood. I think no one talks about entering your late 20s and being asked when are you going to get married every single day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, like one thing that I did not or probably didn't appreciate, of my parents also, who've been very supportive. When I said that, I think a year back, I said that I want to shift to Mumbai. And immediately the response was, you're shifting to Mumbai, you're taking on a lease right now. What about if you get married? Like, okay, we will see what will happen if if it was a guy who made this decision that I want to move to another city for my career. Would you ask him, what if you get married?
Yeah.
And this is not
Absolutely.
just me. Another friend of mine, she's a yoga instructor, and she wanted to start her classes, and she wanted to, take a place for setting up a studio. And her father said that, oh, don't sign a lease. What if you get married and change cities? That lease is going to go away. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to keep our entire lives at halt, so that when we get married,
Yeah.
there are lesser frictions.
And someone who's on the other side, who's been married and who has a toddler, I can tell you for sure that actually it never ends, because then, there are so many more expectations of, you take on new roles and responsibilities. And especially when you have a baby, then the whole world turns around, against you in some ways, because the whole society has an opinion on how you should raise your child. So unfortunately, I don't see it getting better for women, but it does get harder. But in some ways, how I deal with it is that you just have to find your inner compass, right?
Yeah.
And you need to know what you stand for, what you believe in, and just keep pressing it against the world till the world finally accepts it and agrees to it, or doesn't agree to it, but you just carry on with your
That's
life.
actually very well put, and something that I've also realized that you just have to be okay with being asked these questions, being given these opinions, but you have to do at the end of the day what you want to do, which is also, somewhere rational. Like, you're not making irrational decisions, you're being responsible, but at the same time, you're also making decisions for yourself for what you want to do and not what the society expects you to do.
Yeah.
So that way, I think this is how I am navigating it, and that's what I think. My mom has been supportive for me, supportive towards me in whatever I wanted to do, and even now.
I think moms play actually
Yeah.
the best role. My mom drilled it in my head from, like, I think when I was my baby's age right now, that you have to be financially independent.
Same, yeah.
And that is the only guiding principle I had in my life, that no matter what I do, I just have to be financially independent, and which is such a strong principle. So moms actually play such an incremental part in our lives.
Also role models.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
my sister, my cousin sister, she's actually in her 40s. She has 2 kids. She's handled multiple businesses. There's no stopping her. Even today, she's now launching a new business at the age of, she's in the mid 40s now. And she's seamlessly managed it all. And of course, it looks seamlessly from the outside, but I'm pretty sure for her it was very difficult and she had to make sacrifices also.
Yeah.
But having seen her done that, I now realize that I can also do it. And even I've seen my mom work and my mom juggle a lot of things, but that's where also family comes into play. I told my mom once that, mom, I don't think I'm not sure if I want kids, because it's, like an entire life you're responsible for, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Right now, I don't have time for myself and time for things I want to do. With marriage and kids, I don't know how things will go, and I'm not really sure. And she said, don't worry, if you want to have kids, you can still, go on with your life. We'll come there to support you, and help you, get back on your feet and be there
Yeah.
for you. So that also gives you reassurance as to you have support if you want and when you want, to be both ambitious and also have a family.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was mentioning to you, like I think 30, 40 days after I gave birth to my daughter, I was wondering that my whole life cannot revolve just around changing diapers and feeding the baby, right? Like I wanted to go back to work. I was itching for it because that's the sane view of the world that I knew, right? And there was so much talk around, oh, how can you go back to work? Baby's so little, till 3 years, baby only needs you. And there was all this talk outside, but I just had to focus on myself and what I wanted from my life, and that is what I chose to do.
Yeah.
But I think there are so many more role models now of women having been there, done that, that I think now this generation of women which will grow,
Yeah.
which is younger to us, are making all the financial decisions, and they will not succumb to pressures of the society when it comes to, changing careers or leaving your career altogether when it comes to marriage or motherhood, hopefully. At least that's the dream.
Yeah, but I think the reality for most Indians or most women is still that they have family pressures and it will be difficult. But of course, I think the graph is going a little better when it comes to women being more independent, thinking about themselves first and prioritizing their careers till whatever extent they can.
So, just coming to the closing question, Anushka, I think you've given so many Indians, actually 1 million Indians, if one were to quantify it, a roadmap for investing their personal finance. What should one's roadmap be for 2025? How would you advise people to build their portfolios for this year, and also from a taxation lens, how should one think about it?
Building a portfolio for 2025, definitely markets are on the expensive side, especially small cap, mid cap are more on the expensive side. Large caps are still looking decent, but this is the time when you can't take, आंख बंद करके risk नहीं ले सकते. You have to be a little bit more mindful about where you're investing. So if you're starting to invest in 2025, play safe, opt for index funds, opt for hybrid funds where you invest both in equity and debt, and don't go too much into mid caps especially, and also small caps. Small caps do have some, certain segments, certain companies are still doing good, but a lot of small caps are also at 40, 50 PE.
Yeah.
So
And they're also badly beaten down if you think about
but
it now.
even
What's
then,
up?
they're
Yeah.
expensive. So they're not like the best place to be
Yeah.
in right now. Forward-looking PE of Nifty currently somewhere 18, 19. So that's not on the expensive side, but it is fairly valued. So you can continue your investments. It's not the time to book your profits as of now. You can start that also partially if you have, especially in mid-cap, small cap, or gold right now. But 2025 is where you are supposed to be very careful of not losing money, not taking too much risk, and being comfortable and being a little bit more realistic about your returns, because the returns that you saw in the last 2-3 years from the equities, from other asset classes, are not going to repeat. I think US markets gave, I think, Indian returns somewhere around 29-30%
Yeah.
almost. That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers.
Yeah.
But again, that's not going to repeat in the future. So don't invest in assets or commodities or or companies which have already performed very well, because that's the mistake most retail investors do. Invest safely, be a little bit more conservative about your finances for 2025.
या एंड बहुत लोगों में ये होता है ना कि जब भी मार्केट में करेक्शन होता है वो अपनी एसआईपीज रोक देते हैं बिकॉज देयर लाइक वी शुडंट इन्वेस्ट एट दैट पॉइंट बट दैट्स द बेस्ट टाइम टू एक्चुअली इन्वेस्ट एंड पीपल डोंट रियलाइज दैट सो एनी एडवाइस फॉर पीपल हु डू देयर एसआईपीज एंड हु माइट गेट अ लिटिल वरिड about the corrections in the market that
I
might
think
happen?
this is a statement, I'm not sure who made it, but majority of the wealth is built in the bear market, because that's when you get securities or investments at lower valuations, that when the markets again perform well, you will be able to earn higher returns. So again, for 2025, have some liquidity. It's not that we don't know when the correction is going to come, or we don't know if there will be a deep correction. It will happen eventually, because the small cap and mid caps are not, they are overvalued. The global scenario is not, the global scenario is very uncertain. Yeah. The dollar is also, playing its role here. So considering all of that, there could be some things, so there could be corrections that might be happening. So have liquidity, keep liquidity. Don't invest into risky assets as of now, but don't stop your SIP. If you have additional money, don't deploy that. Continue with your SIPs, especially in the index funds and hybrid funds. If you have in the mid cap, small cap, you might choose to reduce it or continue it. But if you have additional money coming in right now, don't make a lump sum investment. Wait for a correction. It in the longer run, it might give you better returns.
Yeah, in fact, one of my favorite investors, Sanjoy Bhattacharya, who also I hosted on the podcast, actually said that I pray for a financial crisis like a GFC to happen again in my lifetime, because that's my only shot at getting really rich.
Yeah.
So, and people really underestimate these things, right? Like you just have to, if you are in the markets, you have to pay attention to where the bull market is and where the bear market is, because bear markets is when you make the money. So I think that's a fantastic note to wrap the episode with also, because 2025 might be a little jittery year in the markets, but I think this is great financial advice for anyone who's watching. And thank you, Anushka, for taking out the time today. I think it was fantastic and I loved reading your book, and I'm sure others will too. And I hope and wish you a lot of success as a content creator and on all your new businesses.
Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for having me. And you're also doing some amazing work.
Thank you for watching this today. I hope you learned a lot about personal finance. Make sure that you remember to subscribe to the channel so that you get notified every time we drop an episode.